So in this Bikotic video I thought we'd look at Cav's horrible crash in the Milan-San Remo at the weekend, and shout out for Dick, who has asked me to have a look at the Impulso Allroad from Bianchi. And yes, I said Bianchi because last time I called it Bianchi and I got told off. The main reason I'm doing that one is because actually I'd quite like to have a look at the Oltre Xr4 and the Infinito CV disc, which I will compare against the Allroad because they look rather tasty. So poor old Cav, he's had a terrible start to 2018. This guy has crashed a lot in his career, hasn't he? 2018 seems to be just awful. So first one in the Abu Dhabi Tour, 21st of Feb. Before the race even started, Cav managed to crash when the lead-out car slowed itself down because of the sensors on board. Cav managed to crash into the back of it, which took him out of that race. I think he was actually the ambassador for that race as well, so that was a shame. And then the Torino Adriatico, the team time trial. I've not actually seen the crash, but Cav went down. Yeah, that looks pretty nasty. And if you Google Cav on Google and have a look at the images of all his crashes in his career, the guy has spent a lot of time with road rash and broken bones. You have got to wonder how much longer Cav's going to want to put up with all this pain and suffering. I suspect you get to a point in your life where you've probably got enough money, you've probably got enough Tour de France wins. Perhaps it's time to take a seat in the team car, tell other people how to win the race. It would not surprise me if he retired sometime soon. I hope he doesn't, but there we go. Saturday just gone, we had the Milan-San Remo. Let's have a look at Cav's crash in that, because it's horrible. Right, so here we go. I think we're about 9k from the finish of the 2018 San Remo, and we've got the helicopter shot here. This is Cav. I think we've just come off a roundabout, and you can see the rider in front of him brakes right, and Cav decides to follow him. Unfortunately, there's a gigantic yellow potty directly in front of him, which he didn't see until the Cannondale Drapac rider clears it. So imagine you're doing about 55 kilometers an hour, which is about 35 miles an hour, and suddenly, bosh! This is what happens if you hit an immovable object at that speed. Your hands immediately come off the handlebars, the bike stops dead, smashing your lovely Enve wheels to bits, and you make like Superman. And look at that. Cav is directly upside down in the air, and thankfully lands on his back, not his head, because that would have actually been worse. Bosh. Oof. That's a hell of a crash, isn't it? So that is one pretty much written off. Fancy Cervelo C5 probably. And incredibly, he's walked away from that with not too many injuries apparently. Quite a bit of road rash, I would think. I wonder what's going through this Lotto rider's mind. Hello, there's Cav upside down. Interesting. So the other extraordinary thing about this race was how Vincenzo Nibali won it. It was quite incredible how he managed to hold off the rampaging sprinters to the finish line. Caleb Ewan coming in there second. Imagine the sprinters are putting out like 1300 watts of power, and Nibali's been on the front since halfway up the Poggio and has somehow managed to hold them off. I mean, that is superhuman effort. Unbelievable. And if you were in any doubt as to whether cycling is a dangerous sport, Andre Greipel managed to break his collarbone in that same Milan-San Remo. Turgis broke his collarbone. Simon Clark broke 3 of his vertebrae. So poor old Clark hit a stone wall and he unfortunately broke 3 vertebrae. However, he got to have pizza in the back of the ambulance, so all's good. Okay, so here's a quick shout out to Dick, who asked me to have a look at the Bianchi Impulso Allroad 105. He wants to know if he should get that as his first road bike rather than spending crazy money on a Trek de Marne or a Cervelo. So he wants to use the Impulso to get fit so that one day he can buy a slightly more racy bike. So there we go. So I'm kind of using that as an excuse to get a picture up of the Bianchi Oltre Xr4 Dura Race Di2, because this is a sexy looking bike, isn't it? And I think I've looked at one of these before in a previous video, but I had the other coloured one, Bianchi Celeste, I think it is, the sort of turquoise blue all over. But I saw this grey one when I was looking through their website, and I don't know, I think I actually prefer this colour scheme myself. I'd like to see one of these in the flesh and have a go, because I think it looks rather cool. Dura Race Di2 obviously there. One thing that I don't think's cool at this price, $9,500, is obviously I don't know how much it weighs, so that's not cool. But the other thing I think that's not cool is I'm not keen on these aluminium fulcrum wheels on a bike this expensive. And I know these are racing wheels and that they're pretty good, and they've got a retail price of about 800 quid. However, they're not particularly light apparently, and they're definitely not particularly aero. And I sort of see this as an aero bike, so I think that's a bit disappointing. So let's chuck a set of Enve wheels on. I think they're much more fitting for a bike like this, and in fact they'll be pretty similar to the ones that Cav just smashed up in that crash we looked at a second ago, because they're the ones that Dimension Data use. So that's the Oltre Xr4, very nice. In Bianchi's endurance type lineup we've got the Infinito, and this is the Infinito CV disc, nearly $4,500, so it's quite an expensive one. And if we overlay that with the Oltre, obviously no surprises there. The race bike being this one, a lot lower at the front, and you're a lot more stretched out. Bianchi say that the Infinito has integrated vibration cancelling technology, and that is actually called countervail. So presumably what we're actually talking about there is the layup in the carbon frame, and it being an endurance bike, obviously getting rid of vibration that the rider has to absorb keeps you feeling fresher for longer. But like its race brethren, I think this is a good looking bike. Discs obviously, which is something Dick said he wanted. Again, we've got the fulcrum wheels, but these ones are carbon. I think that's a good looking bike. Yeah, I like both of these bikes. I think they'd look good in my garage. And though this one, the Infinito CV disc, is $4,500, I did see one that you could get for about $2,000, so that's not so bad. So finally, for Dick, this is the Impulso Allroad 105. So this is the bike you were talking about getting. This comes in at about $2,000. Obviously no weights that I can find anywhere. And if we compare that first against the Infinito, which is the endurance bike, you're going to start seeing what the idea is with the Allroad. And as the name suggests, I think you'd probably put this Impulso in the gravel bike type category. And if you look at the difference between that and this endurance Infinito, it's obviously a lot longer, as you can see here. It's got the 30 or 32mm tyres on. I didn't check that, but they're pretty big and fat balloons. You've obviously got the 105 group set. You've obviously got the disc brakes. And the Infinito is pretty high at the front, but this is even higher by quite a long way really. So you are sitting up and begging into the wind there. So to answer Dick's question, and I think he did say, I rarely go off asphalted trails. So I'm going to assume that he stays mainly on the road, in which case Personally, I wouldn't go for the Impulso. I think that's going to feel a bit ponderous. I think if you ever ride with your mates who are on endurance bikes or, heaven forbid, race bikes, you're going to struggle to keep up with them on your Impulso. Again, it all depends on what type of riding you're doing and who you're riding with and what you want to achieve, really. I'd probably go for the Infinito, which is the endurance bike. It's going to be lighter, faster, pretty much just as comfortable on the road. What size tyres you can fit on it, I'm not 100% sure, but totally imagine up to a 28, if not a 30. So that would be my suggestion. What alternatives are there in that category? Well, I always like to go to the giants, as you already know. So what about a Defy Advance 1? A little bit cheaper, and we know that this comes in at 9 kilograms. So the 2 grand version of the Infinito will be just as heavy, if not probably heavier. And if you compare Giant's endurance bike with the Bianchi Infinito endurance bike, remarkably similar at the front end. The Giant's obviously got the dropped seat stays. Both got discs, so I don't think you can go wrong with either of those really for that kind of money. So there we go. Hope that answered your question, Dick, and if anybody's got any other bikes they'd like to have a look at, please drop them in the comments down below, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel.